I have with me in the studio Professor Bola Akinterewa, Director General, Polytech Center for International Diplomacy and former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. I also have with me Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Arise News Analyst Modele Sharafa Yusuf. And, of course, glad to see him again, Wale Gomez, Managing Director of Quant Capital Limited. On Thursday, at the Daily Trust Dialogue, many of the nation's elder statesmen from the immediate past, President General of Ohaneze Igboho, Chief John Nya Nwodo, to Afenifere Chieftain Chief Ayo Adebanjo, and the chairman of the Arewa Consultative Forum, Chief Audu Ogbe, and others, clamored for Nigeria's need to be restructured to attain its full potential. The event, which was themed on the restructuring of Nigeria, was presided over by Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan. At the dialogue, President Jonathan also weighed in on the topic, saying that while the current agitations for restructuring by giving more autonomy and devolution of powers to states and local governments are not misplaced, he warned that restructuring alone may not solve all the anomalies in the Nigerian Federation due to the attitude of Nigerians.
We have our peculiar challenges, and we should devise means of solving them. But we should not continue to vent our spleen on the amalgamation. As Shakespeare in Julius Caesar said, the fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves.
There are serious technical problems of the definition of what are nationalities in Nigeria. Secondly, even if we assume that yes, there are ethnic groups, and the Igbos, Yorubas, Hausa, or Hausa Fulani are ethnic groups, how do you choose those to go into that conference that you are proposing? Representation for constitution making are usually, in fact, invariably territorial, not ethnic. So we will be trying to move from one problem and run into another, if we think that the ethnic group will be the foundation of addressing what you perceive to be a quicksand.
Joining us now to speak on this is Afenifere Chieftain, Chief Ayo Adebanjo. Thank you for joining us, sir, on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. You're welcome to the program. Well, Chief Adebanjo, you have consistently insisted that without restructuring, there will be no future for Nigeria. And you restated that position at this latest media dialogue by the Daily Trust Media Group. Now, how do you mean that without restructuring, there is no future for Nigeria? Because that sounds pessimistic, it sounds apocalyptic.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by seriously disagreeing with the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. It appears my support for him during the last election was in vain. He does not know the issue of this country. You should not miss the question of restructuring, which means restructuring the country back to federalism, with the question of a good government. Why are you missing the question of how we are to be together with how the government is to be? They are two different matters. Nobody has ever suggested that restructuring will solve all the problems of the country. We are saying restructuring should go back to federalism. America is an established federalism. Yes, they produce Donald Trump. Well, no, there are two different matters. And it appears that the former president didn't follow or read the history of his area. If he thought that we must first of all reform ourselves before we talk about this restructuring, then Boro and River must have died in vain. They have not been talking about minority in this country. We must be part of the country. That is the problem. Restructuring is important because it is the basis by which we should come together. The same constitution we are having now, I say, I repeat and emphasize, is a fraudulent constitution. The constitution says, we the people of the Federal Republic. Did we make the constitution? Is the constitution federal? That is the question. And what I'm saying is, by the time we came together, by the time we got our independence, there was an agreed position of the elected members, leaders of the country, to come together. The British Constitution gave under McPherson, put us together under unitary. And we had to go to Lord Chanton in 1954 to change the constitution because there was a crisis due to inequity in the country. And there again we established federal constitution. Before going to London Constitutional Conference, there was no premiership in the constitution. The McPherson Constitution didn't make provision for premiership. It was that conference we agreed that if we must go together, the constitution must be federal. Because we're a multi-ethnic, multinational, multi-religious society. We cannot rule ourselves peacefully under a unity form of government. And we have been saying it consistently. And people shouldn't begin that. Many people who are born later think Nigeria began under the military. Nigeria began when Obasanjo became the president. No. The question of going back to federalism or having federalism has been there long before. So when the British took over in 1966, they changed the constitution. And when they decided to go back in 1999, the leaders of the country said, Mr. If you are going back to the barracks, send us back to the constitution under which you took over. Simple question.
Well, Chief, I'll come back to
Many people don't understand because the constitution they made was the military constitution. When we say go back. And so, because the needs of that constitution, that we have all the problem we are having.
Well, Chief, I'll come back.
People now are agitating.
Chief, I'll come back to the issue of the Constitution, but I need you to clarify something. What exactly is the point of disagreement between you and what President Jonathan said? President Jonathan said, yes, restructuring is important, and I think every other speaker at that Daily Trust Forum agreed that restructuring is necessary. But how each person goes about it is different. You know, they had different views. But what President Jonathan was saying is that amalgamation is not the problem. That the problem is the mind of the people. And that unless Nigerians deal with nepotism, tribalism, that the country cannot move forward. That we have to start from that particular point. He talked about divisive politics. What exactly do you have against those issues? Divisive politics, tribalism, nepotism.
I have nothing against it. I don't want it to mix it up with the question of restructuring. He's making it as if the moment we do restructuring, nobody is saying that. That is the matter for the political party in power, the way they do it. It is not the basis on which we come together. What we are debating now is that the basis of our coming together now is fraudulent. That is what we should debate. The party in power, whether nepotistic or non-performing, that is when we are in power. That is when we are a country. We are not a country now. That is my difference between. If you don't make it, that is not as if we are saying the moment you do the restructuring, there will be no corruption. No. We are now saying that the way we are ruling ourselves is not the way we agreed to come together at independence. That is what we must distinguish, we must clarify. I don't want him to mix it together as if, before we do that, we must restructure our mind before. No. Are we together first? Then the question of restructuring our mind was when we agreed to be together and on the method of living together. That is the point at issue now.
Well, Chief, there were other speakers.
I don't want the two to be mixed together, and people are mixing it together.
There were other speakers.
And the fact that he too said it made me feel disappointed.
Well, there were other speakers at that event, Chief. There was Chief John Enyanwodo, who was talking about national security, talking about agriculture, diversifying the economy. There was also the former chairman of the INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission, who was talking about good governance. He says, for example, that bad governance is the major problem. There was also Chief Audu Ogbe and other contributors who were saying, look, this matter can be looked at from different dimensions. Yes, we have Professor Tahiru Jega right there, former chairman of INEC on the screen, who talked a lot about bad governance. How do we address all these issues that other contributors at that event talked about? Because it looks like restructuring means so many things.
That is the point I am making, Mr. Bati. That is the point I am making. The point I am making is all the statements, all the parameters you have laid on, I don't disagree with. I am saying you don't put the cart before the horse. We must be together first. What I'm saying now is that we must restructure to go back to the constitution we all agreed to discuss the basis of how to rule. Are we one now? That's the question they should answer. The question of nepotism we are talking about is because you are in government. Am I supposed to be in this government where a section of the country is ruling us against my wish? Let us settle that first. I don't buy the question of anybody talking about post being together. I'm saying now we are not together. And the basis of not being together is because of the Constitution. Clarify that. Now, when you are talking of good government or bad government, that was whoever is in the party. You have to restructure yourself and all that. Then we must be together first. We can't be scattered with all these inequities in the Constitution, the way we distribute our revenue, the way our security and everything is all basic on the way we come together and the way we rule ourselves. That is what you clarify. When we get that first, well, I am with them with all the rest. But I am saying I'm not going to discuss that until I agree to be with you.
Well, Chief, you always talk about in 1960.
I'm saying that the constitution we are having now is not the constitution we agreed to.
Well, which is my next point.
Constitution by a section of the country. Clarify that first.
Which is my next point, Chief. You always talk about in 1960 and in 1963 Constitution as something that we should return to as a basis for true federalism and for restructuring. Now, what is so special about 1960 and 1963 Constitution? Considering the fact that someone like Professor Tahiru Jega is arguing that, look, if you look back to the past, it won't make any difference if you don't have good leaders. So even if you say the 1999 Constitution is defective and we adopt 1960, 1963, if you don't have the right men in critical places, Tahiru Jega's argument is that it makes no difference. What do you say to that, sir?
My dear, that is very fine. You are still begging my question. I'm not disputing that. Are we together now to discuss whether you are right or wrong? We must be in a decent force because all these things are coming. That is the question they miss. I don't disagree with Jega that all these qualities of a good government must be there. But we must be together first. But I'm saying I'm not satisfied with you now. So the question of discussing the way you are doing doesn't arise. I am now saying under this constitution, you are cheating me. I won't discuss anything. I must get that one off first. I contribute 10,000, you return 2,000 to me. You contribute 2 pence, you take 1,000 under this constitution made by the military imposed on us. Let's clarify that first. When we do that, all the things they are talking about, I am 100% with them. There must be a foundation on which we are going to be discussing all these details. And now say that the foundation is not there. For the foundation to be there, you structure the country back to true federalism, then we move on.
Well, Chief, the federal government, after that daily trust dialogue, responded through Garuba Show. And the main point that was made by the spokesman of the president is that, look, anybody who has anything to say about restructuring of Nigeria should go through the National Assembly, which is the appropriate body where the platform has been provided. Senator Bashiru, who is also the spokesperson of the National Assembly, also said, look, people talking about restructuring are just Loganianing. If they have any issue, they should go to their senators and process their grievances appropriately. What do you say to that?
Thank you very much. It's unfortunate that General Buhari surrounds himself with ignorant and uninformed people. Garuba Shehu, I understand. How old is he now? He's not around when we are talking about the existence of the country. He asked me to go back to the assembly. Which assembly? The assembly which is a product of this constitution we are complaining about? The assembly which is a product of the fraudulent constitution? You see, people miss the point. The assembly is part of the problem we want to solve. The assembly that is earning among us salary, which we don't have under the good constitution, we then agree to the deduction of the salary of the amendment. It is not fair. It's illogical for me to go to a body it produced by constitution. I say it's fraudulent. No, I don't do that. It's not right at all.
Well, sir, there's been some issues.
For emphasis, let me tell you, for emphasis, the National Assembly is a product of fraudulent constitution. You cannot amend this constitution. Simple.
Well, but that same National Assembly represents the people of Nigeria as a fact.
It does not. That's what I'm saying. Under this constitution, the constitution is fraudulent that produced them. You must get that wrong clear. Why are we disputing?
Well, but Chief,
and when you ask me that we are referring to the 1959 Constitution, that is the Constitution that elected people of Nigeria agreed to until the military changed in 1966, address that issue.
Well, Chief,
then we get on from there.
Chief, we've had some developments in the last week in Yoruba land over the same issue of restructuring, with the Ondo State Governor, Akeredolu, saying that Fulani herdsmen, as they are called, should leave the forest reserves in Ondo State. And that generated some confusion between the federal government and the Ondo State government. And we have also had a similar situation in Oyo State, Ibarakpa East, Ibarakpa North, where a youth activist, or if you like, a Yoruba nationalist, Sunday Adeyemo, also known as Sunday Igboho, has played a major role. And people have been tying this to restructuring. Now, the kind of restructuring we're talking about, is this the kind of restructuring that people are talking about where a youth activist, an ethnic gladiator, can just come up and say, look, people from another part of the country should leave his own ethnic part of the country. And then you have the governor of the state saying something else and another governor saying something else. I would like you to talk about this sudden emergence of a phenomenon in Yoruba land.
Thank
called Sunday
Thank you very
Igboho.
much. Thank you very much. I am happy you give that instance. Now you go back to what I was telling you. The confusion is a product of these constitutions. That is what many people don't understand. The constitution is that the root. What is the root? Security. And it's the constitution that the governor of the state, who is described as the chief security of the state, not having control over the implement of security. As a result, the people who are molesting us in the West, we say they belong to a certain group. And the federal government, our accusation is that the federal government in charge turned a blind eye. And when the governors of the West begin to see that, well, we are not people, they are killing our people, we are going to form our own security. It's all question of the constitution. The federal government can no, you cannot do it. So if we got a constitution where police is state, authorities in the region, we agree on the terms, this question will not arise. And when you talk of Igboho, what led the Western region governors to form Amoteku? Because they believe the federal government is not taking care of them, let Igboho to react. They are killing his people. They killed the Oba. They killed the daughter of the Oba. An educated element in their country, PhD, came to the country, founded an industry, they killed him. There was no arrest. Nobody came to their aid. Neither the federal government nor the state government. And then they say, okay, if you are not coming to our aid, we take care of ourselves. They are the people wearing the shoes and putting what the federal government and state government should do. They should look into the circumstance of the complaint of the man. And the complaint of the man is rooted in the constitution. The government is saying, well, you haven't got the power. When they were pressed, they gave us Amoteku. They gave us a lame dog Amoteku to take care of criminals without bearing arms. You see, the anomaly, that's why I say, many people don't know. When I say go back, let us have an acceptable constitution. Then in one breath, the state government say, well, I am the head of security, I'm going to protect that and property. But the constitution imposed on us says no, only the federal government, the police. These are all the complications in the constitution. These are all the things I'm saying. Let's go back and agree on the constitution, then we can live together in peace. Any step you are taking goes back to the root of the constitution. Because the claim of the federal government is that, well, under the constitution, you haven't got the power to do it. And the people are saying, but the power, you who have the power, you are not performing. It is because of your non-performance, they sounded Amoteku, and everybody agreed. Amoteku, you made them a lame dog Amoteku. And the go now give instances of insecurity in their area, which neither the federal government nor the state government took action. And now they say, well, if you don't take care of us, we will help ourselves. Why are you going to blame you?
Well, Chief
I
Adebanjo,
think if the federal government doesn't want to cause confusion in this country, they want to cause confusion in Western region, they should not touch the man. They should go, they should look into circumstances. They are accusing them that the people causing trouble, raping, molesting us, are these people known who have been living with them before. They didn't ask them to go away 10 years ago. They didn't ask them to go away 20 years ago. They were there living together. Until Buhari came into office, the whole thing came. The poor thing they were having was negligible. Somebody who have been living with them, they have been intermarrying. That's not said to us. Everybody in the Western region, we know. The Fulani are running around, they are our friends. We intermarry, we do everything. Until the question of raping, bandits came in. They was, oh, these are the people causing problems in my area. They even killed my Oba, they killed my wife. The farmers couldn't go to land. And we said, these are the people. And there is no evidence from the government of the state or the federal to show that those who are giving them this trouble, you arrest them, not to talk of prosecuting them. That is the issue, Mr. Abachi. That is the issue for anybody talking about this Igboho thing. That is anybody who loves the country should warn the federal government not to cause trouble in the Western region by talking that boy, because they have not done their duty. If they have accused or prosecuted, arrested, those they now always to fetch them out. Fetch the criminal out before the...
Well, Chief Adebanjo, well, on that note...
The people now you are pointing your duty to.
On that note, Chief Adebanjo...
That is the issue.
Chief, we'll take a short commercial break and then we'll come back to you for one or two more questions. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. I still have with me Chief Ayo Adebanjo, a Afenifere chieftain who has been looking at the subject of restructuring and other issues of national interest. Chief, yes, we just talked about the situation in the Southwest and the phenomenon that has emerged. Sunday Igboho, who says he's defending Yoruba interests. But what is the connection between Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, and restructuring? I still don't get it, because it looks like resort to self-help. It looks like resort to self-help. If an individual coming up and saying that in a certain part of your state, certain people should just vacate the state, I mean, it's an abuse of the law, isn't it? Even if some lawyers will argue about self-defense. What is his local standard in the matter?
Thank you. Mr. Abachi, we are taking me back to the issue of the session. Igboho reaction is a result that they have not protected my people that they should choose. And the people you should protect it are not doing their duty. That is the bottom line. It's a consequence of the non-performance of the federal or state government to do their duty to protect their life and property. That is the way. Don't look at the consequence of non-performance of the authority. When the authority didn't perform, they say, okay, if you won't protect us as required, we protect ourselves. That is why I go back to the Constitution, and the Constitution is what they are all saying. The governors couldn't act fully because of the strain under the Constitution. When they even formed Amotekun, Malami came out and said they have no right to. And you describe this government as these governors as chief security officer of the state. And I said that the question of local government position is the responsibility of the state government. If the Constitution provides that, we wouldn't involve federal government in this at all. It will be the blame of the governor there. And if the governor is there knows what to do, the question of interference and nothing will not arise. And our allegation is clear. Let us make it clear pointedly that the authority that is supposed to protect these people now are behind the Fulani who are oppressing us. Let us make it clear. And that is why they don't act. They killed the daughter of our leader in Ondo. What happened? They carried away an Oba. The professor cannot go along the road. These are the issues that really got Akere Dolo. And I'm the governor of this place. They will not kill all my people before I react. Because you people, you don't defend me and you don't give me the instrument of defense. You are now talking of constitution. They kill my Oba, they kill my professor. The farmers cannot go to land. Even those there, a prominent citizen like Falai, these people went to his farm. They abducted him. They have to pay ransom before his people in this country. And you say that constitution is continues to be. You turn a blind eye. That is the question about it. What causes what? Don't talk about reaction. Talk about the action that causes the reaction. The inactivity, the non-performance of the duty of the federal government to protect life and property gave rise to the agitation for Amoteku, which they gave lame dog. The non-performance of the Amoteku, the non-performance of the full power of the federal government, to the state government, to protect the people of Igboho and others, gave rise to the citizens that, oh no, if you would protect us, we will protect ourselves. That is why I'm emphasizing on the question of the Constitution. All the problem we have is the Constitution. They should South is to say they are cheating over their revenue. That is not the revenue we had at independence. It was the military that gave us an awkward position of dividing revenue. They created state the way they lie. They created the state. They created local government. What is the basis? All because of the post-constitution. That is why we must go back there. You created local government the way you like. You now say the local government you created will be the basis of distribution of revenue. What a fraud. Those are the issues about it. Don't mix it up. One thing leads to the other.
Well, Chief, two quick questions.
Sunday Igboho who come out, if by the time they kill the professor, they kill the Oba, they kill the daughter of the Oba, the women who cannot go to farm, there was action. How will it arise? It is like when you are blaming Kanu, who wants their secession. Who wants secession if he has been treated equally as other places? That is the question we should address.
Well,
the man is not a fool.
Chief, two quick questions.
You say it's part of this government.
Two quick questions before we wrap this up. The first is, you've talked consistently about the Constitution. And you make it sound like the review of the Constitution, a people-oriented Constitution, is a deus ex machina, something, a magical wand that will solve all the problems. What is the guarantee that, in fact, if we come up with a new Constitution, it will solve the problem, or there will be a consensus addendum among the various ethnic nationalities about what will be the content of that Constitution? Second, you have been asking for restructuring.
Mr. Abati.
Okay, I wanted to ask the second question.
Those of you don't understand the root of judgment for restructuring, you talk like this. Why are we asking for restructuring? Restructuring is not a philosophy, I've told you that. All it means is that let us go back to the Constitution we have at independence, which is a federal one. That is the emphasis you talk. Restructuring is not the debate, the language of the moment. Some people will say restructuring is just of sovereign national government. That was what we were agitating for before Abacha. So that if you want to go to that issue, we waste a lot of time. The issue is give us an acceptable constitution first. Whatever arises after that will be a product of the people. And when they even talk that we say go back to 1950s constitution, are we going back to 4 regions? No. Politics is a dynamic thing. When we get to that conference, which Jonathan, in his good judgment, did in 2014, we agreed on all these things. And Jonathan handed the document to Buhari. This is the most important document. All these questions that's arising, we solved at that question. But he said, because he didn't set it up. I said, okay. I said it publicly. If you don't like it, what you don't like there, if you have to set it up, take it out. What should be there, put it in and let us move on. If that is the main reason. But I will say publicly, I don't believe General Buhari. There is no sincerity about keeping this country together. When we are telling you what is causing the sensation, why don't you allow us to address it? You are clamoring, you can't want to separate the country. Why don't you call Khan? Why do you want to go away? We have been together. He will tell you. You don't call it separate, and he says, call a separate conference. If you don't like Jonathan's conference, call your own and let us agree on how to live together. And you can summon, it's a question, there are several recommendations which we did at 2014. Summon a body, acceptable to you to go into this thing and agree on something and send on to the referendum. That's simple matter.
Well, Chief.
But I don't want you to swallow the campaign of those who don't understand what we are doing. Those who we are talking about, we know what we are talking about. And many of them we are talking are not born by the time we have started this agitation. All they want is to be in power. To be in power to cheat others. And I've said, if this constitution is not good, that was the constitution Ahmadu Bello, Awolowo, and Azikiwe agreed to as independence. They have not disputed that. And when I said that, because I don't necessarily mean we are going back to 4 regions, I said the tenets of federalism contained in that constitution should be reflected in whatever we are doing now. Simple question. If you deviate from that, you are going off the way. I don't say doing the restructuring, we solve corruption, we solve this.
Well, Chief.
As the federal system solve corruption in America.
Chief, you have just said
bad government by producing people like Tom. That is not the question. Address the basic question first.
Well, Chief Adebanjo, you made the point that you don't think that President Buhari is sincere. And yet you devoted so much energy to this campaign for restructuring. Are you still optimistic that any magic can happen between now and 2023? Or you are just on this campaign for reasons of principle?
My dear, if I get you well, what I'm emphasizing is that nobody should talk about any election. I don't buy it until we change this constitution. You go on election, we start again with the same problem. And that's what people get clear. And people have addressed me, have come to me, like Tinubu going about now, I'm going to be president, not to be this. Presidency now is not my problem. I don't care a damn. I must have a country first before that we are going to decide how the presidency will be. That is not the issue now. The issue is, am I under an acceptable constitution that will make me live in peace together with my neighbor? Or am I under a constitution imposed by a section of the country to oppress me? Answer that question. And then we go on from there. And if you are serious about it, if you are sincere, it is simple. Gather people, let them be representative, as I have said. We must do it before the next election. To do any election that this constitution is a fraud. And I have told people, if you take my son to be the president under this constitution, I will oppose him. Because it's not a fair constitution, it's an imposed constitution. Let us have an election under an acceptable constitution that is free and fair and acceptable and equitable to everybody. Not a constitution that excludes somebody. It's a constitution that makes a section of the country to decide you can be president. I concede it to you. No, I will gang up with another one to exclude another one. And we say we are in the country of equal status. I'm not for that.
But quickly, in less than a minute.
That's not what I fought for.
Chief, in less than a minute, will it make a difference if a Yoruba man emerges as a presidential candidate in 2023? Quickly, because we need to go.
Because I told you that does not arise now. Or whoever, I don't buy anybody now. And I want these people too. They should not be deceived by dangling presidents to them. Let them resolve that the question of presidency, we solve it as a constitutional provision. They should have presidency as of right under the constitution. Because that constitution will display how it goes, as we did in 2014. Not as a sufferance, not as a favor.
Well, thank you very much, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, for joining us. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on This Is Live, the Sunday Talk Show.